There's been some enormous commitments already in just the first week or two of July, but even bigger ones are yet to come. So let's bring on national recruiting analyst here at On3, Sam Spiegelman. Sam, the recruiting calendar, it seems like it's shifted again. Summer was camp season. It used to be camp season, and now it feels like commitment season. What's the cause of this? Is it NIL? Is it all these summer official visits? Is it the cycle just speeding up on us again? What's going on?
Well, you remember July 4th has really over the last half decade just become the time for kids to commit if they're going to commit in the summer. But I think since the NCAA introduced all of these summer official visits, for all the kids that are racing to get to 3 or 4 or 5 schools in the summertime in May and June, they want to be done with the process in July and then shift their focus to their senior seasons. Now, Josh, we talked about this off the air. There's definitely been a lot more commitments in the month of July. This is the busiest month of the season, probably as much or more than December or when January used to be. But it also opens up the door for flip season then to take place from September on.
I was going to ask you about that. So if this is commit season, is the fall going to be decommitment season? Because I feel like there's going to be a couple teams that maybe drop a game or two early on. And boy, we could see this thing open back up again. Do you think that's possible?
Always, there's always coaching changes. There's always kids that make a decision in June or July or August. And then that coach that was recruiting them is off to another school. The head coach is being rumored for other jobs or some form or another. There's also, obviously, when you commit out of state, potentially the in-state schools dial up the push or vice versa. Sometimes you have a breakout senior season and then the big dogs come rolling. I'm talking about Georgia. I'm talking about Ohio State, the Texases, the Texas A&Ms of the world. And sometimes those are the offers that move the needle, and it puts those schools that recruited the kid the best in an even tougher position because then they got to hold on.
All right, well, decommitment season will be here before we know it, but we're still in commitment season, so let's take a look at some big July commitments. Interior offensive lineman Casey Poe, the top-rated interior offensive lineman, he's set to decide on July 12th. Offensive tackle Jonathan Daniels goes on the 15th. Caleb Odom, 6'4", 220-pound tight end out of Georgia, commits on the 15th as well. Then Taylor Tatum, the 21st, and 5-star corner Charles Lester will be on the 28th. I'm sure there's going to be more. We're going to have some live commits here too at the On3 studios. I know right now Caleb Odom's going to be announcing with us. We'll probably add a couple more. But Sam, what do you make? Let's start with Casey Poe out of the state of Texas. How do you see this recruitment playing out?
Yeah, this is an On3 special. We had him as the number one interior offensive lineman, and look at the list of suitors he's choosing from Georgia, Alabama, Oklahoma, LSU, Texas Tech, Clemson, Auburn. I think for much of the spring, this has kind of boiled down to Georgia versus Alabama, and Oklahoma has also stood tall. And I think when he makes his decision on Wednesday, it's really down to Alabama and Oklahoma. I've had my pick on Alabama since the tail end of the spring visits. That was really important to Casey Poe in getting second and third looks at a lot of these schools. And then after these official visits, it was really hard not to ignore the impact that Nick Saban has had on Casey Poe's recruitment. I like where the Tide sit with the number one interior offensive lineman in the country out of East Texas.
And one of the top offensive tackles in America, Jonathan Daniels, he's going to get set to make his decision. Now, both of us have our picks in for Florida State. But when we put our picks in, it was really Florida State versus LSU. Since then, he's named a top 3 of FSU, Kentucky, and Georgia. There is no LSU. Now, he did take an official visit to Georgia. How big of a threat are the Dogs right now to the Seminoles?
Well, no team in the country is recruiting better than two-time defending national champs right now. And they did make a sizable move when they got Jonathan Daniels on campus. I think the fact is that Florida State has been the team to beat. And even if Georgia got it close, the timing of Florida State's official visit loomed really large. Whatever visit high that the Dogs left with Jonathan Daniels, I think FSU sort of negated it with their own visit high. And I think they've been the team that always kind of felt like home with Daniels. I think they're in line to get a nice blue chipper to add to that offensive line.
Now, Caleb Odom, who will be, like I said, announcing live in the On3 studios that same day, July 15th, he's taken a bunch of official visits. He's been in the state of Florida. He went to Florida, went to Miami. He's been to Alabama. He took a summer tour. What do you make of his recruitment? Where's it trending? As we're about a week away from him announcing his decision.
Yeah, there's definitely been a lot of teams that have kind of garnered momentum. As you said, he made visits all across the SEC, across the Southeast in general, this spring, and then again this summer before he kind of came up with the July 15th commitment date. Ole Miss has had a lot of momentum in the spring. Miami and Mario Cristobal love to recruit elite tight ends like Caleb Odom. But midway through June, a lot of the buzz had been centered around the Crimson Tide. They started to dial up their efforts with the elite tight end from Georgia. He fits the exact mold of a tight end for Joe Cox and the Tide over there. I like where Alabama sits. I like where they've been sitting. My pick has been on the Tide since June.
Yeah, and it feels like Alabama is going to get going here real soon. Sitting right now at number 4, not accustomed to seeing him that far down the list, usually 1 or 2. But, hey, just look at these big July decisions. Right now, we have Alabama trending for 2 of the 5. All right, let's move on to running back Taylor Tatum. He's in the state of Texas. You've covered him for years now. He's going to make his decision on July 21st. What are you hearing when it comes to Taylor Tatum?
Yeah, this has been a 2-team race in midway through June. We know that USC has been trending for Taylor Tatum for a good chunk of the spring, and we know that Oklahoma really closed the gap after DeMarco Murray got him on campus. Big Sooner Champ U barbecue weekend. DeMarco Murray and also the baseball program also kind of closing the gap with USC for the number 1 running back in the country. I've moved my pick over to Oklahoma. I like where the Sooners sit with the East Texas running back. They have a history of recruiting. His high school is alma mater, and I think tradition is a big part of Taylor Tatum and what he wants to do at the next level. So I like where Oklahoma sits, but it's a really tight race.
And do you think when Taylor Tatum makes his decision at the end of the month that that'll be it for him? Our team's just going to back off at that point?
Well, I know that USC isn't going to stop recruiting him. His relationship with Kyle McDonald, their running backs coach, goes back to the 8th grade. So I don't see him disappearing anywhere in this recruitment. And then you got both Texas and Texas A&M lurking in the state. Just like we talked about, flip season, it's not always up to the kid who's committed to their school. It's up to the running back coach and the head coach to say, we don't want to let this kid leave the state. And I expect Texas and definitely Texas A&M to stay in the mix with Tatum until the end.
Yeah, I could see that happening. All right, let's move on to the 5th player on this. 5th player, 5-star, Charles Lester, one of the top cornerbacks in America. You and I actually both agree on our predictions here. We both have him going to Florida State, but there's some competition, and I know Florida State fans are looking out west to Colorado. Do you think Deion Sanders is a factor here as we wait for Charles Lester's decision?
You would have to be a fool to discount Deion Sanders, who has been very quiet this summer, to just be completely out of the mix with Charles Lester, who obviously we know is from the same state as Deion Sanders and took a visit out to Boulder and has spoken very glowingly about Prime. I think Charles Lester fits the profile of being a Florida kid with being willing to go out of state and playing the right position with the right skill level to really feel like Deion Sanders can put him in a position to be drafted in the first round down the road. So yeah, I like where Florida State sits. I feel very comfortable with my RPM on the Seminoles. Charles Lester has called them his number 1 school on occasion. He's called it his dream school, and he's visited Tallahassee more than any other school in his recruitment. But no, I am not discounting Deion Sanders or the chance that Charles Lester ends up playing his college football in Boulder, Josh.
All right. Well, again, with Charles Lester, if he commits at the end of July to Florida State, I still don't think that recruitment's over either. But right now, I do like my pick on the Seminoles. All right, Sam, it's been already a fun month of July. More fun on the way. Can't wait to see all these commitments. And the ones that we previewed, these are just a fraction of the commitments that you'll see at on3.com throughout the month of July and into August. Recruiting is red hot right now. Sam, thanks for stopping by the Inside Scoop. Thank you for watching. Make sure you smash that subscribe button for me. And remember to check out all the videos on the On3 YouTube page.